Welcome to Birdseeds. Today's a special day. I have an awesome guest, somebody that's been a big part of my professional journey since 2015. I'm going to bring on my personal real estate business coach, frankly, life coach. This guy has been incredibly imperative to my journey, both in business and in personal growth. And without further ado, Don Jacks.
What's going
Welcome.
on, Joe? Thank
Hey.
you, man. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So a little background, back, I guess, probably into like 2013 or 14, I started going to some Tom Ferry seminars. So Tom Ferry, if you're not familiar with him, your coach, he's a real estate coach. He owns the largest professional coaching program in the world. Super motivational, awesome guy, great person to kind of get motivated and learn from. And I went to a couple of his seminars down in Orlando. And the second one, my wife had come on to work with me, Laura, and she joined me for that seminar. And I'd just gone to the seminars to kind of just get immersed in the world and get motivated and learn. And I never signed up for coaching because I'm sure I've mentioned this before. I am cheap. And we finished up the seminar. My wife had come back over with the paper signed to sign me up for coaching. She said, "You need this. This is going to be what takes you to the next level, get you more life balance." And one of the things that's cool, what they do is they kind of give you this questionnaire and then they match you with the right person. And they nailed that. I mean, my goodness, did they nail that with Don? So Don has been my coach since maybe July or August of 2015. Really helped me through initial rough patch in business, which didn't expect to come up. So the timing couldn't have been any better, and then grow the business. Don, do you want to give anybody a little background on you, and then we can kind of get into some fun stuff?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, Joe, we can start right. You're a stud in the industry. And yes, I will second Laura's thought, third your thoughts. You are a cheap man. You would never have signed that paper without your wife there. And I remember when we met at the first Blueprint event out in Baltimore, face to face in 3D, meeting your wife and knowing that she was the one who made this happen. It all made sense. And yeah, that was a great moment. And getting you to spend money on your business is one of my greatest challenges as a coach. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. I'm all about the sweat equity, not the check.
100%, as we've learned and as we were just talking about, right? Sweat equity is where it's at. Myself, I've been in the business for almost 30 years, about 29 years.
Wow.
I started, I'll be 50 later this year. So 20 years old. I was hired for $5 an hour to be Steve Stovall. Huge shout out to my first boss in the real estate world and a mentor of mine still today. That's awesome. He was selling 150 houses a year himself, mostly bank-owned properties back in the REO days when Orange County was in bankruptcy out here in California. And I'll never forget my job interview. This was it. After small talk and we caught up, I'd known the man for a little bit as a father of one of my best friends. Okay. And he said, "Don, here's the bottom line. Your job is to do everything that does not ring the cash register. My job is to ring the cash register."
Clear?
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Clear as mud right then. Right. I don't know what that means, but I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so I spent six and a half years with him, learning the business from the ground up, visiting properties to check occupancy for bank-owned homes, delivering flyers, delivering lock boxes, washing the windows and the brass in the office when there was nothing else to do. And quickly grew from that to his right-hand guy. And after probably 6 months of being the rookie, I fell into doing everything I could to learn from this man. I had no idea what I'd gotten myself into. It was a job back then, but I quickly realized this was a special opportunity. Yeah. And spent a lot of time with Steve. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There was a time where the fax machine stopped sending us listings from the banks, right? Back in the day. And then I was given Mike Ferry's business card. And for those of you who don't know that name, that is Tom Ferry's father.
Yep.
So we quickly learned how to sell. I spent a lot of time being coached by their organization, met Tom then, and we had to figure out how to sell 150 houses a year without the bank sending us listings.
Yeah, had to
Basically,
find your own deals, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
the advent of sweat equity for us. We had he liked to call us at the end fat seals at the end of the pier, right? Where we were just being tossed food from all the patrons up on the pier. And that's what bank properties were back then. We were
Well,
one of 3 or 4 REO brokers in the area.
can you make an analogy to that real quick in this market that we're going into, or that we're in now, from the market we just came from, where the
Come
market
on.
was just feeding us everything we could, more than we could even chew, and now you got to work for it?
Oh,
It's
100%.
a mindset. Yeah, you
What
got to
was
get
it?
back to the original. You got to get back
30
to the
to 90 days after COVID hit, right? When the world stood still for a minute and nothing happened. And our real estate industry just broke loose nationwide.
oh yeah,
And all you needed was a pulse, a breath, and a real estate license, and
exactly.
you were selling houses, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've talked about that on this podcast, how as I move into with last year and this year, getting back to my intentionality, because I was just basically just responding. I wasn't being intentional. I wasn't being proactive. I was being reactive, and really
Right.
just getting back to what got me to where I am. And that sounds like a perfect parallel. You're in perfect position to coach that, because you saw that firsthand in a totally different atmosphere and story, but it's the same story. It's the same theme.
It's the same story. That's absolutely right. It's the same outcome at the end of it. We became order takers. We became a little lazy, if you will. We were working. Please don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
10, 12, 14 hours
Oh yeah.
plus many days. But it was reactionary. It wasn't purposeful. It wasn't you leading the charge. It was you responding to everybody else's charge. We got to get out of the city. Let's get to the burbs, whatever that was. For
Exactly.
the last 2.5 years. And with 6-7% interest rates plus right now, it's really changed everything that many of us were used to over the last 2.5 years. And it is back to relationship building,
Yeah.
work, lots of conversations, lots of misses to go find the yeses and serve the people we're here to serve.
Exactly. And just doubling up, like I'm doubling up my calls right now, because there's less, they're less effective just because of where the market is. So just not sitting back on what worked before, like actually taking a second to get present and think about what's working now and what do I need to change now in order to be successful now and in the future.
Right. That's right.
So certainly keep the winning plays, but the formula's changed.
There's no waiting. If you wait, you die in this industry today. There's no more just sitting back and allowing people to come, because so many homeowners are at 2.5, 3.5, 4% interest rates. They're not moving unless they have to.
Yep.
The first time buyer's payment has, if not gone up by half, 100% in some cases.
Yep.
They're pausing and waiting and seeing what is going on with our financial situation today.
And a lot of people that are moving are just keeping their houses as rentals because they have such a low rate and the rents are up. So
why should they, right?
They should keep it as a rental.
Absolutely.
I mean, from a financial perspective, it makes sense, at least for 3 years. So they can potentially, I don't want to, confirm that because I'm not a CPA, but potentially avoid capital gains and get some more, equity out of that house, continue the growth and get some rental income in between. It makes
100%. And if the numbers work out, you're cash flowing plus whatever equity shows in the next year to 3 years. For those who want to move, don't want to give up their low interest rate, that's the conversation to have. No doubt about it.
I mean, I just met with a past client and, they want to retire in 7 years. And they met with their financial advisor, and the financial advisor says, hey, you're set for retirement, but you're not going to have any fun money. You're not going to have travel money, play money. So they came to me and they said, Joe, we think we might want to sell this house now. We have about 350K in equity that we'll get out of the sale, buy a 350K house, and then not have a mortgage payment and take the 2,800 we're paying now and put that in a savings account for the fund money. That is a very smart idea, but don't sell. Your house is worth about 650 now. I would say based on location and the way this area is building and the way prices are going up, you're probably talking 725 in 3 years. And it would rent for $4,000 a month, $1,200 cash flow plus another 75K. Now that's a fun retirement account.
100%.
For your fun money for a couple of years, right?
Yes.
So go buy the new one, get a mortgage on it. That's fine. Take your 1,200 plus And then whatever the less is, because you're going to buy a cheaper house in that money, and you're going to put that in that plus get the equity, you're going to do way better and do it for
So
3 years. And
you've
don't
doubled the real estate that you owned. You've increased your cash flow. You have fund money. You have a rental property, and you have a primary residence. It's a good
right, and then
move.
do it for 3 years and sell it after that, and potentially avoid that capital gains.
That's right.
And because if you don't do that, then the gains are for naught because you're going to pay it in taxes. But if you do it and you time it right and get with your CPA and your financial planner and your realtor all together, it's a no brainer, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes back just thinking about it. And for those of you might be thinking that's a lot of numbers and that's a lot of what ifs. Real estate always goes higher than it did last time, and it never goes lower than it did last time. And that's why the houses that our parents brought us up in
Yep.
are so much more valuable today than back then. There's been
Right.
ups and downs over the decades. It just always seems to work out.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yep.
we have to recognize that 2008 was the anomaly. That was not the norm. That was not a normal cycle. There was a lot of bad that went into that market, uncontrolled growth and greed and government policies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you can say a little bit about this most recent bump with the artificially low interest rates booming up the market. But really, if you take a look at where appreciation should have been over that span, we didn't really go higher than we should have been. We just kind of flatlined for a while and then bumped up.
That's right.
And if you look at the factors that would drive prices down, they're not there. We don't have enough houses. There's not enough houses in this world, in this country, especially.
That's right.
Supply and demand. Yeah, demand goes down, but when supply is not there, prices stay up or stay the same or go up.
And that's what we're dealing with right now. I mean,
exactly.
I was in listening to conversations of other people doing podcasts and videos from back east. And we're seeing it a little bit here, not as much as that you are back there, but there's still multiple offers happening. I was listening to a woman talk about 22 offers on her latest listing, which goes 100% against the narrative on Fox, CNN, everywhere on YouTube that the world is falling apart. And maybe we will continue to see settling, maybe.
Sure.
But the supply and demand issue is going to keep prices, I believe, in many areas from crashing, right? Stabilizing, maybe crashing in select cities only.
Yeah, well, the first half of 22 certainly slowed down, and there might have been a slight dip in prices, a slight correction, not a free fall, just maybe a quick correction. But all the people that left the market when the rates skyrocketed, the reasons they were in the market probably haven't changed for mass majority of them. And yeah, a couple of them, maybe 10%, 20%, whatever that number is, got priced out with rates. But the motivations are still there, if not stronger. And they're all coming back to the market right now, but the sellers aren't following because they don't want to get rid of their mortgages.
That's right.
And people have to recognize too, like, you know, the banks that are failing and all the stuff that's going wrong in the economy and the world, that's actually good for real estate. That will push rates back down. And if rates get back down below 5 at some point this year, it's going to go absolutely bonkers. Just absolutely insane.
If that happens,
it's a big if.
I think I can go on record here. I do not trust the Fed making the right decision right now.
Nope.
I probably, if I had to put money on it, we'll see another rate hike or two this year still, regardless of the banking fiasco happening right now. But then I'm guessing that they'll catch the game, catch the drift, and bring them back down towards the end of the year. We'll see. We'll see.
What I find interesting is every time the Fed does something, the mortgage market reacts almost the exact opposite because they also don't trust the Feds.
They don't trust. I'm sorry to interrupt you. They don't trust the Fed, but they're baking it in, anticipating what the Fed will do ahead of time. So when the announcement comes, they can come back. The rates are coming back down, which is super interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see where it goes. I don't know that we'll see if it gets below 5 this year, but if that were to happen, I mean, even 5.5 this year, if that were to time in the next, month in the spring season, oh my goodness, it's going to get nuts.
It is. And people should take advantage. It makes a massive difference in your monthly payment, your cash flow. We all want fun money. We don't want to be house rich and cash poor. So those interest rates make a big difference. So
they do. And the answer to the question, should I buy or sell now, is still the same as it's been my entire career. That depends. Let's talk a little bit more about it. What's right for you?
That's right.
I don't know if I've ever told you my violin analogy. So, I'm a musician,
Right.
music stuff all around here in my office. And I grew up playing the violin. And there's two ways to tune a violin. There's the tuning peg at the headstock, and that's your gross tuning peg, and that gets you close. And a violin played in tune, perfectly in tune, is one of the most beautiful sounds in the world. A violin
Absolutely.
played even slightly out of tune is one of the most hard sounds in the world. So you've got the
Yes.
gross tuning peg at the headstock, but then you have a fine tuning peg at the bridge. And so this gets you close, and then this gets you spot on.
Dialed in.
So
Yeah.
so that analogy goes to timing the market. What's right for you? Let's figure
Yes.
out what makes the most sense for your life and your needs. Once we have that, we can fine tune the timing to maximize the market. This
The
week, next
timing,
week,
the
Wednesday,
interest
Friday,
rate,
right?
the
Exactly.
area.
But we got to
Absolutely.
get this figured out first, because this doesn't matter if this isn't close.
What a fantastic analogy, because both are important, right?
Exactly.
We can't discount the interest rates and the area and the market and the inventory and the competition, but none of that matters before your goals and needs and desires and wants first.
Right.
And that's something we talk about endlessly
Right.
In our business.
If you time the market perfectly, at least 50% of that was luck. At least.
At least.
Yeah, there's
At least.
strategies and there's educated guesses and things like that, but it's luck at the end of the
That's
day.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. It is interesting. One last thought. The last couple of years, the market was a reason people were moving. For the first
Yep.
time, it ended up on the top 5 list of reasons people are moving, and equity
Yeah.
grab makes sense. Lots of money on the table. Now it's flipped back the other way for the moment. And
Right.
as you said, if interest rates come down, it could change again. The market is not in favor of that in many places. So you better have a need, a want, a desire strong enough to deal with today's market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to
Good
go
stuff.
back to something you started off on, where you talked about like your humble beginnings, starting $5 an hour and just having a job and then seeing opportunity to a career. And that, I think, one of the reasons we've bonded so well and worked together so well is it kind of mirrors in some extent my background and coming up. So I don't know if I've gotten into this on the podcast, but I grew up in the music world. So I decided early on I couldn't sit still. Didn't handle authority very well. I couldn't go and work a regular job. So I decided to do my own thing. So between playing in bands and touring and that fun stuff, and then taking that into college for music business, which then I opened up a production company, marketing company, record label, distribution type thing, and ran that for 7 years, but I never got paid. I mean, I think I made my best year doing that was $30,000 in 1 year. And I thought I was rich. I thought it was loaded. But most years I made between $7,000 and $10,000 a year. But it wasn't about the money, it was about the passion.
Sure.
Got married, decided we were going to settle down, decided, man, okay, this music world's fun, but I'd actually, being in the business of it, lost the passion of music performance. So I kind of didn't, was over it. And my family was in real estate, and I kind of just decided I'm going to go get my real estate license and figure out what I'm doing next. Worst case, I do real estate or I don't do real estate or part-time, and interviewed and kind of went around and met with a bunch of people. And I met Eric Bakula, who's my mentor and team leader, and we're team partner now at this point.
Yes.
And kind of interviewed him, and we had the very same mindset in real estate, that everything is relationships. Marketing is crazy. Real estate's that crazy world where you put your face on everything. And that was not his mentality. That was not my mentality. Our mentality was we work hard for our clients, and our clients market us. We don't market ourselves, we market our clients.
Yeah.
And I mean, that philosophy has done really, really, really well for me. And I kind of grew up in that, but it's the same kind of background of like, getting into real estate was really just originally a means to an end, a way to support. And then the passion really took over, and we both got creative and figured out ways to solve the problems out there. And we've done really well with that. So I really think that's why we've connected on such a deep level.
I think that's a big reason. And what's super interesting is it was a job for me at 20 years old. Just before that, in fact, a funny story, I haven't thought about this in a long time. I was working for the bike brand Huffy from
Okay.
19 to 20.
Yeah.
And I would go around to major department stores, Sears, Target, etc., and build bicycles, office furniture, and barbecues.
Hmm.
And I would get paid by the piece. So I had my belt and table, and there was a process we would follow to debox the bike and put it together, right? Either on the
Yeah.
store or for specialty orders. Well, that sounds pretty cool for a 19-year-old kid. Except, as my wife started saying, as I got into real estate, there's a reason why you wear a tie to work, honey.
Right.
I was really bad at it. So
Yeah.
we got paid by the piece and I was starving. Fast forward to 20 years old, sitting at the kitchen table one Saturday morning with my mom, complaining about my job, and the phone rings and it's Steve Stovall offering me to come in and talk to him about working with him. That call changed my life, right? We
Makes,
wouldn't be
yeah.
here together if that phone did not ring. And
Yeah.
just the lessons. I mean, Joe, starting as
Yeah.
a sales associate on a team, you don't know what you don't know. Getting a real estate license, I didn't even have a license, right? But what I knew had nothing to do with the real estate business. Funny enough, at 12 years old, I was passing out flyers and pamphlets for a realtor. I haven't thought about this in years either.
Hmm.
For a realtor in the area that helped my mom buy a place for 3 cents a door.
3
That was my
cents a
very
door.
first job, Joe. Yes,
That is
3 cents a
awesome.
door. Yes, I was
Ugh.
rolling in it,
Oh yeah, you were.
rolling in it, and just working with Steve in that environment, learning the basics, the grunt work basics, and then really coming to understand real estate, running the team, um, going from gopher to transaction coordinator to running the team to listing and selling houses on my own for the team. Without that background, I mean, people like you even, and most agents that have some sort of view of the business, some sort of plan, some sort of love, desire, and go into it full force. You get your real estate license, you have no idea how to sell houses. It's like getting your driver's license,
Yeah.
right? And then realizing, oh no, I'm going to drive with one hand or one finger. This isn't how I'm going to drive. Um, I still don't know how many square feet are in an acre, 40 something thousand.
46,
Yes.
540 maybe.
Yes. Okay.
I might be making that up.
Something
That
like
might
that.
not be right.
That sounds right.
542
Yes.
maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
We don't work in acreage here in California very
I do,
often.
but
Not my world. Yeah. You should know that one, Joe.
well, that's what we have the internet for.
That's what we have our phones for. That's right. All
Right.
the information is there. So getting into the reality of real estate, I actually left for a 30-day stint to be an REO specialist at a bank. I sold out of their inventory, went back to Steve, got my real estate license, and went to the next phase.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of lessons pulled that shows up even today.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you said it exactly spot on. That call changed your life, and I would say the same. That like if I interviewed with all these people and figured out what I was going to do, and I knew a team was the right model for me because I didn't know what I was doing, and my sphere of influence were musicians. They weren't buying houses anytime soon. They were
Right.
broke like me. So like I needed leads, I needed all that. I needed mentorship
Yeah.
mainly, and
Yeah.
interviewed with a bunch of people, great people. But if I didn't meet Eric and Eric didn't offer me the opportunity and see something in me to give me a shot, who the heck knows where I'd be? I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really have no
Probably
idea.
not here today doing what we're doing, earning what we're doing, serving the number of people we're able to serve. I know without those two conversations, this
Yeah.
would look different today.
Oh, for sure. I wouldn't know
Yeah.
you probably.
I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
Before we got on, we were talking about what are we going to talk about? We'll
yeah.
figure it out. But tracking and measuring, going back
Yeah.
to that thought, when the REO business stopped, I mean,
Yeah.
and it stopped hardcore. We were going from 2 to 3 assignments a day to 1 or 2 a week to one every couple weeks. And when that was happening, Steve had been around long enough. He knew it's
Right.
time to shift. The market's shifting like we've been dealing with this year, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Time to put new plans in place. There was myself, Steve, JP, and Micah, who were his nephew and son. We were prospecting every single day. And the goal was 25 conversations, not dials, 25 conversations per day, 5 days a week. And so each of us, what's that, 125 times 4? My math, is that 500 contacts a week? Is that right?
Yeah, two
That
would
would
be
be
250.
500
Yeah,
contacts.
500 exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Tracking and measuring, there was a piece of paper taped to the window with columns with all of our names, and we were tracking conversations, lead generated, appointment set, appointments gone on, contract signed, right? Sound
Exactly.
familiar?
Oh, exactly.
And that methodology. And if by Friday you didn't hit 125, guess what you did Saturday morning before the open house?
You made your calls.
You made your calls, you made your contacts. It was a non-negotiable for us.
Yep.
And that basis, that foundation really allowed, when I left at 6.5 years being with Steve, came to a conclusion. It was time to go. I took my Plantronics headset with me. That's all I took with me. That's all I knew how to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That and a couple clients that were
Plantronics. Haven't heard that name
Plantronics
in a
headset,
long
the
time. My
corded
goodness.
headset, right? No
Yeah,
wireless
no, yeah.
headset, no
Yeah.
earbuds back
That
then.
was a little delayed, but I'm like, that brand, I have not heard that name in so long. That was awesome.
But I would do it today if I
Yeah.
didn't have my earbuds that I just love, or my Bose headset that I love.
Yeah.
It was the only thing I knew. So as I found my way in the real estate world, changing offices a couple times to find my home, all I knew how to do, I got to make 25 contacts today. We got to go find them. And FSBOs and expireds and just listed and just sold. That's how we did it. So tracking and measuring, knowing what we wanted. Let's get back to 150 transactions a year.
Yep.
Deciding on the activities every day that need to be done.
Yep.
Okay, how many? Setting it in the calendar to allow that to occur. And then Steve was the world's greatest accountability partner, right? You like still getting paid your $5 an hour as we're figuring this out.
Yep.
Why don't you do your job? That's still the formula that you and I follow today to track and measure your 10, now 20 dials a day,
right,
to make sure that the lead flow continues.
Yeah. I mean, you got to reverse engineer it. So you got to figure out, what production, what results you're getting from those calls and those appointments, figure out the math on how many you need to make to hit your goals, and then reverse engineer it.
And
then do more than that, because why not?
You're probably selling yourself short. You think it's going to be fewer numbers than it really is going to require to hit the goal, right?
Yeah.
That's it. And that's why we're tracking and analyzing those numbers also constantly.
Yeah, exactly. And I credit and thank you. I really think I really think meeting you helped me take real estate from being a really great salesperson in real estate to running a real estate business, because I avoided the numbers. I avoided sort of knowing what I needed to do. I mean, I made calls, I did what I needed to do, but I rode the real estate roller coaster, doing really good. Where are my sales? Doing really good. Where are my sales? And meeting you, and it just, I mean, the timing, it was kismet. So I went through, it was unexpected hard time in real estate, just finishing up a renovation that went way over budget, not like paying attention to where my deals were and how many leads I had coming in, and not doing the tracking and measuring. And it was August, and it's always slow in August. And all of a sudden I was not where I needed to be financially.
I remember.
And, that was, I think, maybe our second or third call we had. I was like, oh, I need help. And that perfect timing of being vulnerable in a position where I needed the help, and telling this to me, and me not letting myself be stubborn because I was being successful and I didn't, I'll do it my way. My way's better. But then saying, I actually need help here. And then, taking that in and saying, well, I got to do what you tell me to do, because what I'm doing is not working. And then I'm like the tracking and measuring, king when it comes at this point in my career, and holding everybody accountable for their numbers, and knowing at the end of the year, going backwards and saying, not only how many appointments or how many calls to set appointments and how many appointments to sell a house, but then putting the dollar figure on that. So anytime I don't want to make my calls, I can go, oh, Joe, you don't want to make $5,000 in the next hour? You're an idiot. Make your calls, make your $5,000. I'm making that number up. I don't have it in front of me, but like taking it to the next level of monetizing it and tracking at the end of the year. And then this year, realizing I'm making my calls, but I have less going on. I don't know the number, but I know the ratios aren't going to be the same as last year. So let me double up.
That's right.
75 to 100 calls a week is my goal. I've done 80 so far each week. I've got 20 to do today to get back to 80. That's probably going to wind up being the number I aim strive for 100, but no less than 80. I have a home inspection later. I'll get them done there. So, but then on the team, I take it and I sit down with each team member at the end of the year, beginning of the year we're working on, and say, here are your numbers, because we track through CTE. They put them in there. These were your ratios. Where are they going on enough appointments? Like where is the disconnect? Are they not making enough calls, or are they making calls, but they're not saying the right things? They don't have enough appointments, or they have enough appointments, but the sales aren't there. Is it quality elite? Like how do we help them get better? But then we set their goals, their personal goals, on what they want to do personally production wise and what the math says they need to do daily to hit that goal.
That's beautiful.
And then what we do in addition to that is everybody has their own individual goal. I don't necessarily share everybody's goals, but they know that they need to make X number of calls. Well, every Monday we report in a text message group how many appointments and how many calls.
That's
Each
right.
one of them knows when they put that number out if they hit their number or not. Nobody else knows what their number was. They can probably figure it out based on consistency,
Sure.
but it's really internal pressure at that point that you have to put it out there. And if you didn't do it, there's going to be some guilt that sets in.
Yeah.
That's on them to do.
That's so good.
100% on them.
Two things come up here and you say that. One, and I know you know this, we've talked a lot about this, as you see the teammates' numbers come in, as the coach, as the leader, you know exactly, you know that what the coaching is that's required to get them to the next level. Is it more contacts? Is it a better conversation? Is it a closing ability? Is it pricing? Are we taking them and they're not selling, right? Is it a pricing? All those numbers tell us a story if we're paying attention to them.
Exactly.
And then we can analyze and make the tweaks, make the necessary adjustments to fill in the gaps, right? Because of the numbers. And if we're not tracking, we're guessing, right? Tom says all the time, amateurs guess, professionals know.
Yep.
You just laid out the exact formula as to why we want to know. Second thing, and I'll go to our mastermind that has been together now, gosh, going on 3 years, Joe.
Yeah, it started in COVID, right?
It started me going from my living room to my office at home for what, an hour we did for 90 days before I bailed, and you guys still have it going. It's great.
Yep.
Them and every other real estate professional that has talked to you and said, Joe, what is your secret? How are you so successful? You've had one answer and one answer only. What is that answer? I'm setting you up now.
You are setting me up. I know I've said I work my face off and I make my calls.
You make your call. I make 10 calls per day
yes,
minimum,
correct.
right?
Correct.
And that one, and a lot of our friends, I won't throw anybody under the bus, get those big eyes like, no, really, what do you do? I make my calls.
Yeah.
No, I know that you're supposed to make your calls, but really what I do it every day. I make my calls every day. Yes, that is. And here, a call today could be a text. It could be a DM. We're getting in a dialogue with 10 different people at least. And today we're shooting for 15 to 20, right? That's really what's necessary because less people are in the market. It's pure numbers.
You know what I realized too, pushing it up to 20 a day is the goal.
Yeah.
Is because you can't catch up from that easily. So if I missed a day, I could catch up for it the next day, right? So I just, instead of 10, I do 20. Doing 40 in a day is really hard when you're also still busy doing everything else you're doing. That makes me do the 20 every day.
So you don't fall behind and don't have to make 40 tomorrow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I could catch up from 10.
Yeah. But adding an additional 20 today with appointments and life and everything else, it's much harder. That's
exactly.
That's a great lesson to learn.
It is. It's byproduct of just realizing the numbers, the numbers aren't as good this year as far as ratios. So.
Yeah. And what's interesting, just to make sure we're adding value to whoever's listening, this is a definite subject that shows up in every industry, in every walk of life, from our kids at school to starting off in the industry and trying to find a job out of college. For my daughter, we had this conversation on how many applications to interviews to second interviews to hires, and running the numbers. It works as long as we identify the goal, reverse engineer what needs to be done, track and measure how many are getting done, analyze and tweak, have somebody to hold us accountable along the way. It's the same process everywhere we go. So it takes some intelligence to identify the goal. Most of us don't even get that far. Right. But if you can identify the goal and reverse engineer what needs to be done, then have a strong accountability partner, whether it's the mirror or mom or a parent or a friend or an employee, that accountability piece. And you are very well self-driven. And you and I both know accountability still helps in many, many ways.
When I buy in.
When you buy in.
I have to be 100% bought in. But if I'm 100% bought in, I am self-accountable. I do it. It's a non-negotiable. It happens. But if
Yes.
I'm only 9 out of 10 bought in, I'm not
You go
accountable
for
for
'em.
myself at all. Yeah,
Right.
I'm not accountable at all.
Exactly. Exactly.
But when I buy in, it's done. It's
Joe,
it's done.
I think that goes to a lot of us. I think
Yeah.
that's everybody. If I don't believe in the process, if I don't buy in, so if there's another lesson there, either have blind faith and believe in who you're doing this with or for, or have blind faith in yourself that I'm going to give it X number of days and not a week. We're talking months, quarters, maybe a year.
Yeah.
And with that blind faith, I have no other options. This is the option. I'm all in. Force yourself into that belief. But waiting to feel good about it, to make the calls, waiting to have it all line up perfect, that part is not going to happen.
No.
It
No.
it never does, and it turns into lifelong procrastination
Right.
is what sets in.
Right. I mean, same thing. When should you have a baby? Well, if you wait till the perfect time to have a baby, you're never going to have a baby. There is no
That's
perfect
right.
time. If you want a baby, have a baby. Right. I mean, that's way more simplistic than actually having a baby and all the struggles people go through to do that. But the timing is when the timing, when it happens.
Because
Right.
Joe, for both of us, now would probably be the right time, but the energy is so different. Can
Right.
you imagine starting today?
No.
No,
No.
not a chance.
I'm
Not a
tired.
chance.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah. And I mean, if I could figure out how to get into this, like figure out this hack, I would have pushed back on tracking and measuring with you because I was doing really well and I don't like that side of it. I like the feel of it. I'm the artist, I want to feel warm and fuzzy and do all that. But I was in a vulnerable position. So I had to have the blind faith to do it
Yeah,
because I needed help.
that's
If
right.
I could figure out how to turn that part of my brain on to have the blind faith when I'm not in a super vulnerable position, and have blind faith in the people and the things I trust and know are doing it that's for my best interest, but I can't buy into because I've got that little drunk monkey in the back of my head, to quote Tom, saying, "You don't need that. You're doing well without it." If I
That's
can
it.
tap into that,
Mm.
man, watch out.
Watch out. I
Watch
think
out.
with a number of the projects we're working on right now,
Yeah,
you're getting there
I am
because
getting
on
there.
the surface they all sound good. Going all in on them, I think is where you're back to, okay, yes, we're going blind faith, don't know where it's going to turn out. We know what our goal is. We'll figure out the numbers and the action items to make them happen along the way.
Exactly.
I think a lot of that's happening now with everything we're talking about with your
For sure.
business and beyond. So
For sure.
the
Absolutely.
lessons there, definitely.
Most definitely. Well, I know, Don, you have a hard stop here coming up, and I thank you for coming on the show. I do like to end the show with a few questions when I have guests on.
Okay.
And again, to remind you, the format here, a lot of them are just 5-10 minute episodes with just me.
Yep.
And when I have guests, they're 20 to minutes to an hour, however long it is.
Okay.
But I like to end those guests, with the guest episodes with some questions.
Let's go for it.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Oh,
Also, I did not prep Don for this.
no, not at all. There's a, oh man, there's sagas and there's a tie between Rocky, my wife and I, and all the Rockies and
Yep.
all the Creeds. They all go together. I don't care what you say. The story is spectacular
Yep.
of the comeback. And my wife loves the love story between Adrian and Rocky. So something we in the family all have gotten into. And then of course, Star Wars and everything that comes with that. I am a 70s kid. My
That's
dad
awesome.
brought me up right. So Rocky and Star Wars. Yeah.
That's awesome. What about TV show, series, something that aired on TV before this big screen?
Oh man. So if I go comedy, my favorite of all time is John Ritter playing Jack Tripper in Three's Company. I
Yep.
absolutely still laugh at that silly show. Today, let's get a little comedy's got to be Ted Lasso today.
If you haven't watched Shrinking, which is some of the same creators.
I am. I've watched
Awesome.
some of Shrinking. It is very good. I still like Ted Lasso.
Oh, Ted Lasso is better. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
But
Don't get me
Shrinking
wrong. It's better.
is really good.
Shrinking's great. And if
I'm
you
not a
watch it
cowboy.
slowly, and you just pay attention, don't look at your phone. There's
Oh,
so
it's
much
so
dry
good.
humor that is not in the
So
forefront.
good. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go on, and some people hate me for this. That's okay. Send the hate mail to Joe. Better than Seinfeld. The dry humor in Shrinking is
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
favorite, I think maybe my favorite scene in all TV I've ever seen is when he pulls out the little pizzas or whatever, the bagel pizzas or whatever he's pulling out of the oven, and it's hot. And he goes, "Be brief, be brief, be brief," as he puts it down. Probably my favorite scene I've ever seen in any TV show. I had to rewind it and watch it like 5 times
So good. That's
because it's so
hilarious.
real. That's something you do, right?
You got this. Come on.
Yeah. So non-comedy TV show, what would be your favorite?
Non-comedy TV show right now, man. I'm not a big cowboy fan, but I've gotten into it with my wife because she's a huge Kevin Costner fan. I have to give it to Yellowstone.
It is such a good
The
show.
writing and directing in that show, the acting's superb, but the writing in that is fantastic. And as awesome as Kevin Costner is, I don't know the actress, but Beth.
Oh, yes.
Beth is my
And
favorite
Rip.
character on that show.
Rip. I mean, I
Rip's
just
awesome
believe that's
too.
what I can't imagine him as any other thing. I
That's
know he's
right.
been in other things. I cannot imagine him in any other role at this point.
That's right. And if I'm sticking with Star Wars, I'm watching
Yeah,
I don't watch a lot of TV, but I have been recently. The more I talk about this, Mandalorian's pretty phenomenal too.
totally.
Yeah. Oh, and sorry, man, way too much. The Last of Us.
Oh,
Have you
that
seen
is-
this yet?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I mean, talking about Pascal, right? The actor, what a phenomenal show that is. So
I mean, I don't know that there has been better character development on a TV show than The Last of Us.
I
I said
agree
that
with you.
about Breaking Bad. The character development of Breaking Bad was unbelievable.
Phenomenal,
I think this
right.
is better. I mean, they literally will do an entire episode to build up characters that never appear in another episode again.
There's 9 episodes, and you've fallen in love with how many people already?
Yeah.
And Ellie's amazing, right?
Yeah,
on
exactly.
that show. Yeah, I just watched that with my daughter. That's phenomenal. Yeah, too much to talk about right now, but there's a
Exactly.
lot of talent out there. That's the good news.
Absolutely. Last question I got, Jet. Music, song, band, album, concert, favorite.
Yeah, all-time favorite bands, Metallica. I
Nice.
grew up on Metallica. I'll still turn to Metallica. I could go Eagles and Pink Floyd. They've been very instrumental in my life, but Metallica is my go-to every single time where I don't know what to listen to, or I do know what to listen to. Hit the Lights is coming on, Master of Puppets is coming on, Ride the Lightning's coming out. Old 80s Metallica, and the best concert ever was Motorhead with Lemmy, Metallica, Guns N' Roses at the Rose Bowl. I couldn't tell you
awesome.
what year it was because there was things happening that shouldn't have been happening, and you can't make me remember, but it was phenomenal.
Exactly. Speaking of Lemmy, there's a Rickenbacker hanging on that back wall.
Stop it. Look at that thing.
It's got Lemmy strings on it. He has his own brand of strings. It's got Lemmy strings.
That is phenomenal, and that is
Absolutely.
the mic drop of the day, boys and
Exactly.
girls. That is great.
Exactly. Although I have to say with Metallica, I can't forgive them for that snare drum sound on St. Anger. The worst recorded snare drum sound in the history of recording.
All right. Anything after the Black Album, and the Black Album is the iffy starting point.
Yep.
It could have been one, right? It could have been, was that Justice for All? It could have been, that was their last greatest album. One had a couple great songs after the Black Album had a couple great songs. After that, I'm not nearly as much of a fan as I am of the older stuff.
Yeah, their new stuff actually sounds like it could be pretty good. The stuff, I think it either just came out or is coming out. So.
Yes, I've only heard a little bit. I need to get into it, but I don't know. I think my music ability or enjoyment may have stopped right around the Black Album.
Sense.
So everything prior is in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I saw an awesome meme where it's a drummer playing, but his snare drum is just an empty keg that he's hitting instead of a snare drum, and it's the exact same sound. It's pretty funny.
Hilarious. That's
anyway.
Hilarious. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for coming on the show, Don. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
This has been Bird Seeds. Take care, all.
Yep.